if we feel like we're doing something wrong, like we're overstepping our boundaries or we stepped on people to get where we are, we're not humble. And that's what my book talks about. But what I don't go into in the book, and I have to be very careful how I talk about this, but you have individuals who have some kind of beef. Probably it's a beef that started in their childhood. It relates to what is the unknown, or what am I going to find in the next room? Are people going to like me? Are people going to reject me? And so often the desire to be in charge comes from that fear of being rejected. And so then you may want to hold on to power or hold to your point of view or micromanage or have everything like a lot of bureaucracy, all this desire for control because you know what it was like as a kid when you didn't have control. And so you look at something like spiral dynamics, which I don't talk about in the book, and you can look it up if you want to find out more about it. But the seventh stage is an integration. Each stage is alternating between yin and yang, and inclusiveness, but also exclusivity, and achievement, but also arrogance. Right? There's like a dark side and a light side to each of these yin and yang expressions. We see them through history, and we see them as individuals grow up. And so Ken Wilber wrote a lot of books actually, and he talked about integral as Don Beck's theory, basically. But this idea that the final stage, the seventh stage, is where you integrate and you make peace with paradox. There's a lot of other things that he wrote about. But when I saw that his level of consciousness was full of defensiveness, because I guess he's maybe into his head too much. I don't know what it was, but I stopped reading him. So his thinking may have evolved since I stopped reading him. But there's a stage called teal, and I've never found the explanations of teal to be satisfactory. It's like supposedly the future stage. Like if 3% of humans are in integral, which is yellow color, then teal is maybe nobody or maybe a small number of people. And I have written and presented about it before in the context of its like surrealism or dream interpretation. It's a truth that's deeper than truth, right? It's a truth that technically it's not true. It's a story, but it speaks to great truth. The reason why we have to be super careful about this is because if you express anything from teal, even if you just visit teal for a few seconds, this is just theory, maybe it's fiction, I don't know. But my theory is if you express anything from teal, you are accessing a higher level of power because it's a greater truth. And even if you're just telling a story. And the challenge is that if you try to use that story for your own personal advancement, not in service of others, then you're violating the essence of teal, and you can cause yourself some suffering. None of this really should make sense on a logical level. It kind of sounds shamanistic. So I can't support it with science. It's just an intuition that I have. The $250 book tapped into that slightly, but I was able to like not really write it out explicitly, so nobody could, in my opinion, misuse it. But it's there. It's floating around. So I want to help people, especially people who are involved in good causes, but I want to be cautious about how I help them and making sure they don't misuse the information. It takes a lot of self-discipline and patience. That's why I've been writing for over 10 years. So the book is tagged, I think it's tagged Shamanism and Customer Relations. And so the concept is, and we got to be very cautious about this too, but the concept is that we can use what we understand about neurology to help increase customer retention and acquiring new customers, as well as employees. And that sounds nice. But the thing is that the way I've done that in my past career was very low level of consciousness, based in fear and desire, based in logic and reason, based in left brain, but basically logical thinking. That's where I was. And in that kind of thinking, you don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to confuse the hemispheres of the brain. You don't want to confuse night and day. You don't want to say good night to someone when it's 4 p.m. You want to be precise. And that's the people who run organizations tend to be maybe not the top, but the people who are actually running the day-to-day, they tend to be those kind of people. And they can slow the corporation down big time. But you might also need them. So you want them to be kind. You want them to be friendly. They provide a certain structure and discipline and monitoring. But if they're unfriendly or oppressive to your customers or to your employees, making them fill out tons of forms or regulations or whatever that is, then you're going to lose your customers and your employees. That energy they had, that love they had, is lost in an ocean of red tape.